Hello friends! Today we are going to be creating a vintage mixed media canvas. So as you unpack your kits, you're going to find that you've got a piece of white paper that you can use to put down on any surface that you're working on. Also inside your kits, we've got a bottle of glue, some paints, a couple disposable paintbrushes, some old-fashioned gears, and some old-fashioned papers. You've also got a canvas that's an 8x8 and a little tiny envelope. So go ahead and get your supplies set up. You can pause the video and restart it when you are ready to go. I am so excited about this project. I love working with kind of these old materials and these kind of vintage paper looks. So I'm going to set these papers to the side, and the first thing that we're going to work on is getting our canvas prepped to kind of accept this really old-fashioned look that we're going to get ready for. You've also got a little tiny envelope that we're going to start distressing in just a little bit. I'm going to just take some of my supplies and move them out of the way. I also brought in a pair of scissors. You'll probably need that for your kit as well as we start working along. So if you didn't grab some scissors, you can go ahead and grab those. So I'm going to take these little tiny paint pots that we have, and I picked some pretty basic colors. I've got an aqua, a gray, and I've got a gold color. So we're going to patina the canvas to look like it's been weathered and worn out, kind of like a metal that's been sitting outside for a while. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up the lids on these just really carefully. I'm going to pop off that gray color. Going to pop off that really pretty aqua color, and I'm going to set the gold aside just for a few minutes. And then using any of the paint brushes in your kit, we're going to use that disposable brush. So we're going to pick a pattern that we want to lay down our paint in. So we're either going to use horizontal lines, which are moving back and forth, vertical lines moving up and down, or we can pick a diagonal line which moves in a diagonal shape going in either direction across the canvas. And the technique that I'm going to use is something called dry brushing. So I'm going to grab a little bit of paint in one color on my brush, just enough to kind of wet the tip of the ends of the brush. Then starting at the top, I'm going to move back and forth, up and down until the brush runs dry. So it makes kind of a very messy look on the canvas, and I can also hear the brush scratching right on the canvas. Once my brush is dry and I don't have any more paint left on it, I'm going to go straight into the aqua blue. I'm going to grab a little bit of color on both sides of my paintbrush, and then I'm going to add that color onto my canvas. I'm going to layer a little bit over the gray that I put down, and I'm going to move up and down. So you'll be doing this in either of the directions that you chose. Once that brush is dry, I'm going to grab a little bit of that gray, and then I'm going to continue the process in gray again. So I go slightly over the color that I just put down. I hear it scratching along that canvas until that brush is dry. And I'm going to go back into that aqua. So I want to see a little bit of that canvas peeking through, so I actually have three colors going on. I've got the gray, the aqua, and a little bit of that white from the canvas peeking through. And I'm not going to worry about those side edges quite yet. And I'll come down to the bottom and using the same technique. I'm just going to run my brush over it and make sure I don't have any raised clumps of paint, because I want to make sure that this has time to dry, and I want it to dry really quickly. So it looks like a hot mess in the background. Again, I've got the gray, the blue, and the white peeking through. For my edges, I want this to look like a wrapped piece where I painted it and then I stretched it onto the wood on the background. So what I'm going to do along the edges is I'm just going to use the gray, and with the dry brush technique I'm just going to paint all of my edges in a really thin coat of gray, really messy. So if some of the white is peeking through, that's fine because it matches the texture that we put on the background of the canvas. Great job. So when I look at the canvas on the front, I'm going to kind of move it around in the light, and anywhere that's still glossy and shiny are areas of the canvas that are still wet and need a little bit of time to dry. Once all of that shiny gloss has dried, then we're ready to put on our gold paint. I'm going to take my brush that I've been using, and anywhere on the paper, maybe somewhere up high, I'm just going to move my brush back and forth to get rid of any extra paint that might be left on the brush. I'm going to go ahead and close the gray and the blue, and the lids will give a little popping sound once those are closed. And then I'm going to open up this really gorgeous metallic gold paint. Using the same technique, I'm going to grab a little bit of gold, and then brushing up and down, I can start to add a little bit of gold shine in that same dry brush technique across the entire canvas. So I'm going to work in small sections. So I'm not painting the entire canvas in gold. I'm just brushing back and forth very quickly to hit a couple spots in gold. And what's really nice is some of the spots pick up with a lot of gold, and then as my brush gets dry, it leaves streaks of gold. So I'm only going to do the top of the canvas, but if you'd like, you can do the sides of the canvas as well. When you're done, we want to give time for the canvas to dry before we start adding any of our elements. So we're going to set that up to the front of our paper, give it a chance to dry. Then we're going to move over to our envelope, which is going to be one of the elements that we add to our mixed media vintage canvas piece that we're doing. And we're going to want to distress this a little bit. Right now it's just a nice bright white envelope. So one of the ideas for this envelope is that we're going to use it as a piece to add on to our mixed media, that we can put tickets inside of, pieces of vellum paper, as an embellishment to the piece that we're doing. But it's such a bright white new piece of paper that we need to give it a little bit of character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold this piece over and close it like a regular envelope. And then I just took some gold, and you can try this with the other colors that you have. And with the dry brush technique, I'm going to tap off some extra gold somewhere on my paper, and then I'm just going to brush some gold on the top of it. And what's really nice is it's going to pick up any of the colors that I had left in my brush from my canvas. So I just want to use a tiny bit of paint. I don't want to get the envelope paper too wet because it's going to start to crinkle. So I just press pretty hard with my brush to pick up any of the colors that were left inside the brush. Now if you're thinking about cutting off the top of the envelope and placing pieces inside and having them maybe stick out so you can see them on your canvas piece, then what we'll want to do is go ahead and put some paint right here on that inside area of the envelope that you can still see. So I'm going to go ahead and paint that now. So I'm going to give myself a couple choices as I'm working. Since I have all my paints out and my brushes, I'm going to go ahead and paint all those different parts of my envelope. And I might go ahead and paint that inside flap as well. Because as I create, I'm not too sure what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to be ready for everything. So now I've got this beautiful distressed envelope that I can use on my mixed media project as I start creating and working. So I'm going to set that up above. I'm going to make sure my lids are tight on these cute little paint pots. And then it's the last time I'm going to use this disposable brush because it looks like it's had a hard day and I'm all done with it. So I'm going to pull my mixed media piece just a little bit closer. I'm going to open up this glue that I have. And then I'm going to grab some of the vintage pieces that I have. I'm going to start with the written paper first. The vellum papers have a tendency, once you put any type of glue or water on them, to really suck up and crinkle. These are best for cutting out shapes or words or part of the tickets and using those for inside of your envelope, where you can pull them out and tuck those back in. So with the paper, I'm going to start to rip it. And I'll probably use these for some of the borders around my mixed media. So the whole idea is I want to start to create some layering in my piece. So I kind of like this paper kind of spread out along the borders rather than just clumping it all together. So when I find where I want to put it, I'm going to take that clean brush. I'm going to put a thin layer of glue down on the bottom. I'm going to tack my paper down. And then I'll use the glue and put a layer of glue right over the top of it and right under the edges. And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the other sheets that I've torn. I'm going to keep these kind of big and a little bit chunky on the page. So I want to think about different textures and shapes and sizes on my media piece. I want to think about papers that are still big, papers that are small, and how I can put those all together. And I'm also going to think about layers on my mixed media piece. Big things in the background, smaller things moving up towards the top of my mixed media piece. And then I've got one more up in the corner. It's a little bit of glue to hold it in place. As I start to work up, I'm going to work on all of the paper items first before I start putting down any of the different gears. I want to save those for the last elements to this really cool mixed media piece. So we think about, again, those big pieces being on the bottom, and then figuring out how we want to take our different scraps and put them together. So with these ticket stubs, there's quite a few different ways that you can use them. We can cross them and have them moving off of the canvas. So not everything has to be confined exactly within the frame of the canvas. So what's really fun about that is I'll show you an example of that. I can take the tickets and maybe just use one part of each ticket. Maybe I'll grab 3 of them, almost like a deck of cards. And I can fan them out at the very top corner. And then what might be neat is to put a ticket over the corner of it. And then I might come back just a little bit later and put some type of gear or just a small cluster of gears right on top of that. So I kind of like how that looks and how that's designed. So I might leave that there for just a couple minutes while I keep working on the rest of my project. Using this envelope, since it's bigger, it has a little bit of weight to it, so it feels heavy. So wherever I put it, your eye is going to be drawn to it. So I'm going to put it down towards the bottom of my mixed media piece. I love this image of this old car. So There's not too much happening on this side of the page, so I would probably put it about right here. I like the idea of being able to have things inside of my envelope that are kind of poking out from it. So I'm going to grab a couple ticket stubs that I still have. This comes from some type of travel in Sydney. Ooh, I guess I traveled to Sydney, I didn't even know it. This is a passenger ticket, so maybe I took the train. I'm going to straighten the top of this out. So I went to Sydney, I took a train. What else do I have here? At some point I went to Drake University. Maybe I went to go watch a football game, a college game. That must have been fun. So I might have a collection of tickets coming out of that. But also got this really great vellum paper. Like I said, if I put it down right on the canvas, it's going to start to crinkle. So instead of doing that, I'm going to cut out the very top section. It might be a little bit hard to see on the camera, so I'll put it right here. It's French, and I'm not going to claim that I know how to speak French, but it says something about chocolat, so I'm assuming that I went somewhere where there was chocolate. So it's such a great little tag, so I'm going to put that in my envelope. And then to finish decorating the front of the envelope, I'm going to put a couple ticket stubs. So I really like this butterfly, so I can have some butterflies coming off the bottom, maybe in the shape of a fan. I love how that looks right there. And then I might design this and put maybe a couple gears on that as well, just to kind of give that a little bit more excitement when I look at that. So this is a really fun, creative piece for you to design and use some imagination. So have fun with this. Let's create for a little while and see how you do. You can pause this video and restart it a little bit more towards the end, and you can follow along as I create. And I'm really excited to work on this project. And then I'll see you a little bit later towards the end of this video, and I'll show you how we're going to finish off this piece. I took some time to lay down all the pieces of how I think I'd like this mixed media piece to look. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting the elements on my canvas with some glue. So I'm going to start up in the top corner, and I'm just going to start to move some of these pieces to the side and start working on bringing those together. So everywhere I want the paper to stay on the canvas, I'm going to put a little bit of glue. And then I'm going to start to work on those layers. And I can slide the pieces around for just a little bit until the glue starts to set. I just want to be really careful not to rip any of the pages. What's neat about these little tickets is they're also stickers, and you can stick them down, or you can just glue the entire sticker. And something I like to do with the gears is I'll just pour a little bit of glue right into the lid. I'll dip part of the gear into the glue and then press it down where I want it to go. The glue is Mod Podge, so again it'll dry nice and clear. It's a matte glue, so it's not going to dry glossy. So I'll be a little generous with it to make sure that it really stays in place. And then at the very end I'm going to show you how to finish all of this off. So I'm not really concerned if there's extra glue that kind of bubbles up around the different gears. I'm going to take care of that towards the end. If you are concerned about that extra glue that's coming out from the side of the gears, you can just gently put your finger on it, or you can use the back of that extra paintbrush that we had to help hold it in place, and you can brush away the extra glue right onto the canvas. Alright, so next I'm going to work with the tickets that I have off to the side here. Instead of peeling the paper off in the back, I'm going to glue these down one at a time. So I'm going to lay a little bit of glue down. I think I'm going to start with this really pretty dark one first. I'm going to go ahead and have this come off the side of the canvas. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue underneath edges. And then right over the top. I'm going to work on my envelope now. So I'm going to very carefully take those pieces that I've designed and move those off to the side. And then I'm going to take the pieces that I have on the inside out. So since I've decided to have some pieces coming out of my envelope, I'm going to go ahead and cut off this back flap. The back is still white because nobody's going to see that. And then I've decided just to move my envelope over towards the side of my canvas just a little bit more, because I decided with my gears up towards the top I'm going to maybe try to design a little bit of a heart, and I don't want those to be right on top of each other in a straight line. So I'm going to glue my envelope down. I'm going to make sure that there's glue underneath the edges. Make sure that stays down really good. I want to be really careful that I don't accidentally glue the inside flap to my envelope down. So I'm just running the inside of the envelope and pressing it down with the back of my brush. Alright, no problems. Next I'm going to take my tickets that I have. Again, you can peel off the sticker on the back, or you can glue them on just as they are. I'm going to fan these out. That's kind of the theme I have going on, that's why I keep fanning everything out. I'm going to glue these on one at a time. I'm going to move these gears up here at the top. And then I can trim the tickets, or I can leave them hanging off the edge. So if I want to trim the tickets, I can trim them to fit the envelope, or I can trim them to fit the canvas. So I'm just going to trim a little bit off the bottom edge so that they fit the bottom of the canvas. And then I'm going to glue them down to the envelope. I like how they look hanging off the side of the envelope, so I'm going to leave them like that. So I'm not going to glue them down on the side, but I am going to glue them to the envelope. Taking the back of my brush, I'm just going to make sure I can still open up that envelope and that nothing has stuck to it. Taking a thin layer of glue, I'm just going to brush it across the top of the tickets and then check one more time that I can still open up the envelope with the back of that paintbrush. Right, so I'm not going to put any of those elements back in the envelope because I'm going to finish off my canvas with some glue, and I want to make sure that I don't have to take those in and out. Now if I want to add any gears to the envelope or anything else to the design on the outside, I'm going to do that now. Right, I think that looks great. I'm super happy with that. All right, now I'm going to work up towards the top. I'm going to be working on the gears for the heart. So I finished adding all the elements on. I've got this really cute envelope that I've added some gears onto. I've added a couple more tickets to fill up just a little bit of empty space that I've had. So to finish this off, I'm going to come over the top of the canvas with just a thin coat of the Mod Podge just to seal everything in place. I'm going to be really careful around all of the gears that I've laid down. I don't necessarily want to go over the top of the gears because I want to keep those nice and shiny. It's not going to hurt if you do, but this will just help protect the surface of your entire painting, kind of seal it and finish it off. And any parts where the glue is that's erased, all of that's going to dry nice and clear for you. Also, if you would like, don't forget about the sides of your project. You can also put a clear coat of glue, and that will protect all the sides and any paper that you might have that meets up with the edge of your canvas. Alright, so I'll see you in just a second when this has dried, and we'll get to take a good look at how our project looks when it's all done. Our vintage mixed media canvas is done now. Mine is about 95% dry. I've just got some glue that needs to finish setting up underneath the gears, and that might take overnight to really set up and finish drying. I'm going to go ahead and finish placing some of these really cool cut pieces inside of my envelope and some of those ticket stubs, and then it is ready to put up on a wall so that I can really enjoy this. So thank you for creating this piece. I hope that you enjoy it, and I look forward to doing more projects with you. Have a great day.